So I hear the Federation are racists now, Father. Star Trek Picard is to entertainment what E.T. was to entertainment. E.T. the game, billed as the all-new adventures of everyone's favourite tea-drinking capitaine, it is, by any objective standard, a cultural war crime arguably surpassing even The Last Jedi. It's a tricky bugger to dissect too. Unlike E.T., STP is complicated in its awfulness. It's not just bad, it's bad in many, many different ways, big and small and frequently overlapping. To distill my thoughts on the show down to the essentials, I first felt compelled to explore a plethora of individual inanities in a separate series of videos which wound up totalling nearly 2 hours in length. These will now serve as annotations of a sort for this review, or deleted scenes perhaps, and together my efforts will, I hope, incontrovertibly BTFO anyone still glibly attempting to defend this crap. Now, before we cut open the cadaver and extract the major organs of failure, I'd like to preempt any criticism along the lines of, well, obviously you didn't approach it with an open mind. Fuck the forthcoming totally won't be another load of SJW Cobbler's Picard show as well. Look, I admit it, I didn't. But honestly, how could I?
Come on, man!
STP was brought to us by Alex Kurtzman, a member of the depressingly omnipresent J.J. Abrams set. And the man in charge of the widely and justly reviled STD, plus now Lower Decks, which is clearly another world beater. It also boasts among its roster of talent another STD veteran, the Oscar-winning yet reliably shit Akiva Goldsman, and was subject to the same 25% different licensing agreement that hobbled STD from the get-go. And in the run-up to its premiere, by which point typically it had already lost its original showrunner, there was no indication that anyone involved in both productions had learned from their previous mistakes. Quite the reverse.
There's a lot of opinion, right? I've sort of come to the realization that if you're at a 50-50 split, you're doing well. It's when you're at 90-10 that you're in real trouble.
Never go for
Ryan Johnson. Approaching this show with an open mind would be like re-entering a lion enclosure after multiple savage maulings and thinking, maybe this time Simba and I will forge a special connection. However, that doesn't mean I didn't give STP a fair shake. Something else you'd expect me to have hated is Get Out, given that its creator has a problem with white people, to put it mildly, and would doubtless consider me every kind of ist imaginable, and yet I thought it was okay. While I pretty much agree with all of ER's criticisms, I rooted for the protagonist, I liked the ending, and I felt that, in spite of himself, Peele effectively satirised those rich, hypocritical so-called liberals who preach diversity while strenuously avoiding it themselves.
I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could.
So I can be won over by something I'm predisposed to dislike. Also, as I said I would in my review of that show, I stopped watching STD after the first 3 episodes. Which means that while I'm certainly aware of some of the dumb developments in later instalments, I haven't witnessed them firsthand. So while I came into this jaded, it wasn't as jaded as it might have been. But enough with the foreplay, it's time to fuck! Or analyse a shitty Star Trek show. Engage someone from Dignitas to euthanise me. Yes, Star Trek Picard is largely centred around Picard, or rather, as I'll discuss later, Picard in air quotes. But the other characters in this sorry tale are arguably more important, since collectively they have far more screen time and, we'll get to this too, Picard is basically just along for the ride. And unfortunately they're all terribly written, in some cases rivalling Michael the Unlikable, or what I saw of her, for sheer unmitigated awfulness. First and foremost, we have Dahj / her near-immediate replacement, Soji, identical Mary Sue bots whom everyone is after and who can do superhuman things just because. Thrill as a 120-pound woman beats the shit out of multiple men, jumps the equivalent of several stories, punches through a floor, hacks a ship and the galaxy, and holds the fate of said galaxy in her hands. She also has an embedded mom AI that causes her to fall asleep when the writers don't want her to figure something out yet. And oh, we're just getting started. Next we have Picard's motley crew, motley in this case being a euphemism for fucking execrable. There's Vapey McGee, aka
Crack whore!
a drug-addled narcissistic bitch who's supposedly Picard's old colleague but acts as his chief tormentor, the standout among several individuals whose treatment of our hero, whom she insists on calling JL, amounts to elder abuse. She's also elite hacksaw, plus she has this habit of continually scrunching up her face that will have you reaching for your drug of choice too. There's Ditzy, the Earth's leading expert on synthetic life, who's about as convincing a scientist as Christmas Jones and far less pleasant to look at. A jittery, vacuous mess of a character, she displays but one consistent trait, which is being annoying. Oh, and she kills a guy and is allowed by the writers to get away with it. There's Rough Diamond, aka Captain Feelings. Just as Stephen Fry was famously described as a stupid person's idea of a clever person, Rough Diamond is a beta male's idea of an alpha male. Introduced as this cigar-chomping tough guy who laughs in the face of puncture wounds, he's really a mopey simp with an ethnic-y accent. Or accents, I should say, since he comes with several hologrammatic region-specific versions of himself, which, besides rendering all organic crewmen redundant and causing one to wonder why, when androids are banned in this universe, intelligent holograms are perfectly okay, make you feel like you're watching the actor's demo reel. Alas, there's no Mickey Rooney-esque Japanese one. He puts up with all kinds of shit from Vapey et al. And has such low self-esteem that he becomes instantly enamoured of Ditzy. And you thought New Han Solo was bad. And rounding out the crew, there's Legoland, whom we're meant to perceive as this brave innocent whom Picard has neglected, but is actually an angry, creepy thug who jumps at any chance to slice people up. To borrow from one of my 100 Stupids videos, he continues to bring a sword to a galactic gunfight, and he's out of place in a show that barely even vaguely resembles Star Trek to begin with. Meanwhile, we have the Romulans, headed by Commodore O-Face, who has successfully infiltrated the highest levels of Starfleet despite looking, sounding and acting like a psychopath. Her chief subordinate is Cartoon Villain, who, well, the name says it all really. Any Xenia Onatop-esque guilty pleasure she might have provided is sadly nullified by the fact that she clearly wants to fuck her brother. And God knows why, because said brother, another more Tal Shiar than the Tal Shiar operative, is a man bun and a fixie bike away from co-founding a soy-based drink startup. In a world of distinctly un-Romulan Romulans, Space Hipster is the least Romulan of all. Or he would be were it not for Romulan Mrs. Doyle, who's Romulan by way of County Cork. No explanation is offered for her very obvious accent, and it's unclear if we're meant to ignore it, which is impossible, or find the incongruity amusing, which would be fine if STP were a spoof. She serves, along with her predictably meek husband, as Picard's housekeeper and as another of his abusers, and were I related to Picard I would seek an injunction barring her from coming within a mile of him. Who else is there? Well, in addition to the foul-mouthed Starfleet CNC, aka Angry Granny, whose admonishment of Picard is so absurdly jarring and disrespectful it spawned a meme, we're also treated to appearances by other characters from TNG and a couple from Voyager, and again one has to reach for the air quotes. Faux Bruce Maddox and Echeb are introduced solely to be killed, in the case of the latter very unpleasantly. Hugh lasts a little longer, but proves so uncharacteristically wimpy before he's dispatched that one wishes he didn't. And in defiance of all logic, Data, noticeably bloated and with his neck suspiciously covered, is magically resurrected, before also buying it. Again. There's one point in his final scene with Picard where, for a brief second, if you squint really hard, it almost seems like you're watching Star Trek. And then it's gone. Which leaves 3 veterans who make it out alive, 709, Troy and Riker. In the hands of Kurtzman, 7 has evolved into a miserable, vengeance-obsessed vigilante with no one in her life, poor Chakotay is never mentioned, and an active disdain for the Federation generally and Picard specifically, despite him having left Starfleet years ago and the fact that they've never met before. Troy, meanwhile, is now indistinguishable from Marina Sirtis, who appears to have abandoned all pretense of actually playing the character. She also tells Picard he had it coming when Soji violently shoves him. Riker comes the closest to resembling what we'd expect, displaying a warmth towards his former captain that's sorely lacking elsewhere, but even he's tainted. Despite treating Picard better than nearly everyone else, he's still patronising towards him, his happy ending with Troy has been marred by tragedy, and in his dumb face-off with O-Face he comes off as an idiot. And aside from some other fem droids, wicker shoulder pads, aka Cruella devaporized, and her henchman Mr. Smell-A-Lie, that's pretty much it. What a great lineup. But hey, characters aren't everything, right? What about the universe of the show? Oh God! Remember when Star Trek, even so-called Dark Star Trek, offered an optimistic vision of the future based on a fundamentally positive view of humanity? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Sadly, yet predictably, the world of tomorrow depicted in STP, in line with that of STD, is very different. Here, instead of a civilised, and the Prime Directive notwithstanding, civilising exploration outfit composed of the galaxy's best and brightest, or even J.J. Abrams' peacekeeping humanitarian armada, Starfleet is a corrupt, soulless, stagnant bureaucracy characterised by fear, prejudice and outright stupidity. Instead of a post-scarcity economy, Earth and other planets, which, if not part of the Federation, at least seem to fall within its sphere of influence, variously get to enjoy poverty, inequality and general violent lawlessness. Instead of hope, self-confidence and compassion, the prevailing mood, pathetic attempts at humour aside, is one of bitterness, self-loathing and hostility. In other words, at its core, STP is not Star Trek. And I'll say that again for the benefit of a certain type of commenter who'll simply claim I'm wrong and this is great without supplying any argument. STP is not Star Trek. This show does not do what it says on the tin.
This Earl Grey tastes like shit.
And if you're thinking, who cares about that Roddenberry crap? Dystopian settings are cool. I would have to counter that yes, they can be, but even or perhaps especially in dystopian fiction, you need at least one major character to root for, and, well, good luck with that. Sans a compelling hero or heroine, what you're left with is a universe of misery. Plus, of course, it doesn't even superficially resemble the universe we knew. For instance, physical controls and screens have been largely replaced by holograms, which, along with Rough Diamond Ship, look like they've been lifted wholesale from Elite Dangerous. They'd also, incidentally, be incredibly impractical and tiring to use. Starfleet vessels all have the appearance of either evil waterboatmen or squashed lizards, and fairly reek of CGI. Starfleet headquarters looks like some bland convention centre, because they used a bland convention centre. Transporter gates are now a thing, just because. The Picard family home is nothing like the place we saw in TNG. Not even close. The Rikers, or Troy Rikers, live in some silly girl's fantasy land, and I don't mean the one their dead gay son invented.
I love my dead gay son.
Darge's sort of hometown owes more to Coruscant or New York in the Fifth Element than anything Trekkie. Travelling at warp looks like flying along a fibre optic cable or something. There's this random Tron shit going on. Everyone talks like people from current year. And Jesus, those Romulans, they're almost as bad as STD's Klingons. Gone are any hints of their traditional Romanness. Gone in most cases are the forehead ridges introduced in TNG. Now apparently only Northerners have them, which is bullshit. Gone are the giant shoulder pads, square-patterned military jackets and tunics, severe Vulcan-style haircuts and, I'll say it, grey-skinned uniformity. Instead, we get the way of absolute cancer and a fluorescent table, dull generic black bad guy outfits and earth-toned refugee garb, if only they'd gone full derelict, and a conspicuously and inappropriately human diversity. Collectively they look like models from some horribly misguided, vaguely science fiction-y Benetton ad. Or I guess I should just say ad, since these days all ads are Benetton ads. And none of the new stuff is as interesting or sexy as its creators think it is. Witness the Casino Planet. Yes, they really did give us another Casino Planet. In theory, believe it or not, a Casino Planet could be cool. But what this one boils down to is little more than retarded space spam, sanitised reference-heavy signage, and a thoroughly nondescript raunch-free warehouse nightclub. In the universe of STP, even the supposedly exotic and dangerous is phony, mundane, and faintly depressing. But, I hear you cry, this is all just the backdrop, isn't it? Surely it's the story itself that really matters. Well... So a while back I made a video bemoaning the tendency of narratives in modern films to fall apart under the slightest bit of scrutiny. STP is of course a TV show, but its story exhibits that same regrettable tendency in spades. Not once, it seems, did the writers even consider a return to the drawing board whenever an occurrence occurred or an actor acted in clear defiance of logic. Rather, as is now standard Hollywood practice, they just kept doubling down on stupidity again and again. Hell, these geniuses fucked up from the word go by constructing their entire rickety narrative atop this. Yes, JJ's magically extra super supernova gets to blow up the franchise again. For those who've mercifully forgotten his 2009 film, co-written naturally by Kurtzman, its plot is set in motion by the sudden explosion of the Romulan sun.
It has always been easier to destroy than to create.
An explosion whose imminence somehow isn't perceived until the very last minute, which somehow threatens to destroy the galaxy, and which, despite being that unfathomably powerful, apparently doesn't result in the formation of a black hole, since Spock has to create one to absorb it. Somehow. Anyway, the period during which nearly all the occurrences pertinent to STP's story occur begins with the realisation that the aforementioned star is about to go bang. This is some time after Nemesis, in which Data, foreshadowing future developments, dies in an explosion. Here's what the show would have us believe then happens. Picard is put in charge of a Federation effort to evacuate 900 million Romulans, or is it billions, or is it tens of millions, who can't evacuate themselves despite possessing an entire star empire. An unspecified number of them are evacuated to refugee planets. Then some presumably somewhat sentient androids, synths, employed as slave labour, which is somehow okay, go rogue and destroy Utopia Planitia, where Picard's fleet is being built. The entire fleet is apparently lost, even though the evacuation was already underway, and in the process they also set the Martian atmosphere on fire.
Mars remains on fire to this day.
Following this disaster, Starfleet / the Federation, the two are now weirdly synonymous, bans synths outright and abandons the rescue effort. Picard resigns over the issue and spends the next 14 years essentially sulking at his vineyard, and we're gonna circle back to this. Meanwhile, Faddux vanishes to some remote planet that looks in no way like Southern California to continue making synths in secret, synths with flesh and blood bodies and whose brains have all been cloned from a single positronic neuron. A single positronic neuron from Data. What? After several years, he decides to find out the truth about the ban, and to this end he creates two additional synths, Daj and Soji, they always come in pairs because reasons, and sends them off to investigate with no knowledge of what they are or what their mission is. Though they do have the Mom AI program, because reasons. The truth, it transpires, is that the Shat Vaj, the real Tal Shiar, whom we've mysteriously never heard of before, has been working behind the scenes to destroy all synthetic life. The group was formed for this purpose hundreds of years ago, and its existence explains why there aren't any Romulan cyberneticists. Suddenly. Sorry, it was formed for the sole purpose of keeping a secret so terrible it can drive you mad. The secret that hundreds of thousands of years ago, an unknown species was destroyed by higher synthetic beings who then left the galaxy. As revealed by the unknown species in a message they left on a planet surrounded by 8 stars they dragged together so people would notice, which they were powerful enough to do while being on the verge of extinction. And it's in the interests of the Shat Vaj not to let anyone know all this, even though it surely proves that synths pose a serious threat. No, wait, the message was left by the higher beings to enable future synths to summon them back to wipe out all organic life. Because even though they can travel to other galaxies, they need to be summoned back to return to ours. And because this makes more sense than just wiping out all organic life before they leave, or leaving a small contingent behind.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Whatever, Daj winds up on Earth, where one day some Shat Vaj goons beam down and attempt to abduct/study her, instead of just beaming her up, or killing her. She dispatches them all easily because women, and then seeks out Picard because Mom AI. Picard realises that she's like Data's daughter because of a clue Data gives him in a dream.
Now that's magic.
Some more Shat Vaj goons beam down and she ends up dying in, you've guessed it, an explosion, which also kills Picard. No wait, he wakes up at home just fine and without any police wanting to question him. So he consults Ditzy, from whom he learns that Daj must have been created by Faddux and must have had a sister, and thanks to Mrs. Doyle he also learns about the Shat Vaj and that it was them what done it. Resolving to save Soji from Daj's fate, he goes to Angry Granny to ask for a ship, and Angry G tells the man who saved humanity on multiple occasions to go piss up a flagpole. Instead of turning to his old crew, whom he has relied on throughout countless adventures, Picard then pays a visit to Vapey, who, after berating him and forcing him to apologise for things he's supposedly done or not done, puts him in touch with Rough Diamond. RD is another ex-Starfleet officer who, it transpires, coincidentally resigned after witnessing his captain straight up murdering two earlier Faddux creations before killing himself. This totally believable assassination and the totally believable subsequent cover-up were of course ordered by Commodore O-Face, a Shat Vaj mole.
Been there for years.
Anyway, following Vapey's discovery that Faddux is on Casino Planet, and this really great fight scene, Picard, Rough Diamond, Vapey and Ditzy head there in RD's ship. No wait, first they stop off at Refugee Planet so Picard can do some more apologising. There they pick up Legoland and Seven, who have their own beefs with Picard, so they fit in real well. At Casino Planet they succeed in extracting an injured Faddux, while Seven succeeds in straight up murdering Wicker Shoulder Pads, who is holding him for reasons that aren't worth explaining. Faddux tells Picard that Soji is on the artefact, a broken Borg cube that's being studied by the Romulans, who don't study cybernetics, remember, shortly before Ditzy, his former lover, straight up murders him, because earlier O-Face mind-melded Miss Synths Are Everything That Ever Mattered into thinking synths bad. So, -7, they go to the artefact, where Picard, with the aid of Hugh, who works there, succeeds in locating Soji, who coincidentally has just become a fugitive following an attempt on her life by Space Hipster, right after he tricked her into revealing information about the secret synth planet, because while Faddux left her with no knowledge of its existence or location, she still dreams about it, see. Picard and Soji then escape through some convenient super long-range transporter gate located in a special room that's apparently found within all Borg cubes, yet we've mysteriously never heard of before. Rough Diamond, Vapey and Ditzy fly off to Equestria, whither Picard and Soji have fled, pursued by Space Hipster, who can track them because of some triangle O-Face made Ditzy swallow. Legoland stays behind with Hugh. Hugh is ultimately killed by cartoon villain, but Legoland is rescued by Seven. Somehow. On Equestria, Soji struggles to come to terms with the revelation that she's a synth, a struggle which involves more abuse of Picard, and they all sit around and eat pizza, since there's no risk whatsoever of the Shat Vaj showing up and murdering them all. Incidentally, I wouldn't be surprised if some or all of STP's writers have or develop diabetes. Rough Diamond and co eventually get there, and the gang plus Soji head to Deep Space 12 before Soji alters course to the secret synth planet, whose location they now know thanks to Riker and Troy's daughter, because young Whammon, and which they can magically reach before the Shat Vaj, because Whammon. Meanwhile, Ditzy's murder of Faddux is finally uncovered, but a brief chat with Soji flips her back to thinking synth's good, and she announces she's done murdering people, so it's okay. So they arrive at the secret synth planet, then Space Hipster arrives too, because even though earlier Ditzy managed to disable her triangle, he was still able to follow by extrapolating from their last known course and position, despite the sudden course change. Moments later, the artifact, minus the Romulans who all hopped aboard ships to go synth hunting, appears as well, because Seven told it to go there, and evidently it wasn't broken at all. Guess those non-existent Romulan cyberneticists aren't very observant. Wow, did STP accidentally make 2 + 2 = 4? Not to worry, because then some giant space flowers grab hold of all 3 ships and cause them to crash land on the surface, all within a few miles of the planet's only settlement, which is convenient for the crash ease. Strolling unchallenged into Totally Not Malibu, Picard and friends meet the rest of Faddex's creations, plus yet another Dr. Sung. Bronzebot number 3 mind melds with Ditzy, anyone or anything can mind meld now, and eventually reveals the truth about the message left in the fluorescent table, which is what O-Face shoved into Ditzy's brain in the earlier meld, namely that it was composed by and for synths. And wouldn't you know it, BB3 thinks calling in the genocidal robo-cavalry would be awesome.
That's a good thing.
Even though she and her comrades all have organic bodies, which the Kalons for morons might not take kindly to, but details. So yeah, BB3 plans to build a beacon to bring on the apocalypse, and Soji's fine with that, as is yet another Dr. Sung, even though he's totally organic, and the others are basically mindless simpletons.
I'm laughing at the superior intellect.
Despite everything hinging on the completion of this beacon, BB3 apparently isn't concerned about Rough Diamond and Vapey, whom, prior to coming out as pro-Great Reset, she allowed to leave with a magic power of imagination device that can fix RD's ship.
Magic.
Which they could then use to prevent the completion of this beacon. Nor is she worried about Space Hipster, whom she permitted to escape and kill BB2 to harden the others' resolve. Because these hippie drones wouldn't have just stood there and accepted whatever she told them regardless. Anyway, RD, Vapey and Legoland, who stayed behind earlier, join forces with Space Hipster to destroy the beacon. They don't use the ship. Their attempt fails, despite the assistance of Yads, who was okay with galactic genocide but drew the line at a robot being stabbed in the eye. Meanwhile, Picard and Ditzy manage to escape, and no one follows them or seems to even notice. Having belatedly established the twin goals of stalling the Romulans and stopping the synths, they take off in the ship, and don't use it to destroy the beacon. Instead, Picard just flies around for a bit until the Romulans show up, with O-Face openly in command, because that makes sense. Rather than pretty much instantly obliterating Totally Not Malibu in a hail of quantum torpedoes or whatever, O-Face selects to sterilise the entire planet, helpfully buying everyone some time. More giant space flowers conveniently jump cut into space and conveniently attack only the Romulan fleet. The Romulans destroy them while Picard continues to fly around, and millions are spunked on CGI because this is very important. Oh, and back on the planet, Seven fights and kills cartoon villain, whom we were led to believe had left the cube with the other Romulans earlier, but in fact remained aboard and, along with Seven and several others, survived its crash landing. Somehow. Up in space, Picard invites Soji to a Zoom chat and implores her to not kill everyone, and she's like, "No way, Grandad." So then he announces he's going to sacrifice himself for her people, which, if he's not just winging it, means he deliberately intended for Ditzy to die as well. Regardless, O-Face conveniently ignores their ship, even though for all she knows it could be full of synths, until Ditzy uses the power of imagination device to make it look like hundreds of ships. The hollow illusion is shattered within seconds, yet O-Face continues to not destroy them and not do much of anything really, thereby allowing Soji to complete the beacon and a Federation fleet to arrive in the nick of time. Said fleet, dispatched by Angry Granny following another oh-so-cordial chat with Picard while he was en route to DS-12, is of course commanded by Riker, who I guess outranks all the other captains despite being on active reserve, who somehow heard about the SOS Picard later sent to Starfleet Command from Totally Not Malibu, yeah, BB3 also allowed that to happen, on Equestria, and who evidently considered his presence so essential that it merited the fleet taking a detour to pick him up, despite the risk of it then arriving too late to save Picard and the others from certain death.
Good job.
Riker tells O-Face to stand down or else, and she's like, no, I'm gonna fight you. And the two fleets proceed to hang there in space for nearly 3 minutes. While they don't fight, Picard's head gets all hurty, because his Irumodic syndrome, which back on Earth, not Beverly Crusher revealed would shortly kill him, knows we're approaching the climax, and he has another crack at convincing Soji to not be an absolute retard, except this time it's a Picard speech, TM, written by Kurtzman. He tells Soji he trusts her and believes in her.
But why?
And, taking credit for O-Face's inaction, that he saved the synths' lives so they could save the organics, which is pretty stupid and selfish if you think about it, but luckily she doesn't. Instead, just as some snappy tentacles start to emerge from the space arsehole she opened up, she whacks her console or whatever and it all goes away. Apparently abandoning her sacred mission to destroy all synths or cover things up or something, and discounting the possibility of someone simply hitting the on button again, O-Face buggers off. Picard and Riker have a brief chat, and, discounting the possibility of O-Face simply returning, Riker buggers off. Having obligingly waited for them to finish, the Irumodic syndrome sets to killing Picard again, but for real this time. Soji beams him down so he can die on a concrete surface surrounded by all the people who actually mattered to him, but only after telling Vapey she was quite right. So Picard is dead. JK! Ditzy, Yads and Soji set to work copying and pasting his mind into a synthetic body. Outside, Rough Diamond, Seven, Vapey and Legoland mourn his passing, seemingly unaware of what the others are doing, even though one assumes they'd have had to start immediately. While in a non-corporeal state, Picard encounters Data, who's stuck in the same hellish limbo but apparently not important enough to merit his own replacement body. He tells Data he loves him, because we're redefining masculinity, guys, and Data asks to be switched off, and who can blame him? Picard * awakes in his new body, which our ace scientists have deliberately made the same as the previous one, joint pains, swollen prostate and all, because when push comes to shove, Kurtzman and co are still reliant on an old white man. After deleting Data, he and the gang return to RD's ship, ready to embark on a new adventure. Also, Vapey and Seven are lesbi friends now. The end. Yep, that's the story. That's what a bunch of highly paid Hollywood creatives came up with. That's what professional critics collectively gave, fuck me, it's gone even higher, an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. A suspension of disbelief shattering, inconsistency riddled, Deus Ex Machina packed series of goings on.
One impossible thing at a time.
A succession of moronic events you're just meant to look at, one after the other, clapping like a seal but never thinking. A cavalcade of illogicality, so utterly overwhelmingly illogical as to render descriptions such as implausible, contrived, ludicrous, and absolutely fucking fucked hopelessly inadequate. In short, STP's plot contains so many holes that the whole thing is one giant hole. And alas, it doesn't stop there. Alex Kurtzman got where he is on merit. Yep, if you thought the problems were confined to the big picture stuff, think again, bucko. Focus in on anything in STP and you'll almost invariably find whatever flimsy threads are present unravelling before your very eyes. For a better idea of the sheer number of its smaller scale logical failings, you can check out the aforementioned 100 Stupids videos, though even with 100 I couldn't come close to covering them all. Here I shall merely highlight a few examples of these multifarious minor yet not so minor flaws. Incidentally, since, as should now be apparent, the narrative essentially boils down to this happens and then this happens and then this happens, etc., everything's sort of equally inconsequential, which makes it impossible to definitively determine what exactly constitutes a major or minor element of the show. But anyway, people's transporter capabilities at any given moment are anyone's guess. As mentioned, the Shat Vaj don't beam Soji up from Earth, which suggests they can't, yet they can beam themselves down and up again, and Rough Diamond beams Picard and Ditzy up no problem. Refugee Planet is protected by an impenetrable shield of orbital killer drones. One wonders where the refugees got the money to pay for it, which, since Picard must obtain permission to get past it, evidently somehow prevents unauthorised beaming as well as shuttle passage. Yet Vapey is able to beam Picard back through it, or rather through a window that opens every 30 minutes, for some reason, in seconds, so I guess you only need permission the first time? She also magically knows to beam up Legoland as well, even though Picard never mentioned him. Casino Planet, or Wicker Shoulder Pad's nightclub at least, has, we eventually learn, shields, which, Vapey explains, a transport pattern enhancer must be placed inside so the gang can beam through them freely. Yet Seven is later able to beam down with the pattern enhancer, having removed it. And seconds after she does this, we see other people in the club being beamed out. How, to where, and by whom, God only knows. There's more, but you get the idea. It's a total crapshoot. The emergency medical hologram decides to just wait a couple of days before telling the others that Ditzy murdered Faddux. Or, assuming he's unable to tell them because Ditzy has prevented him from self-activating, no one else thinks to consult him about the sudden death of his patient. Mrs. Doyle has, like, a reality replay device which enables her to reconstruct past events at any location simply by scanning the surrounding particles, even though measuring things tends to change them. And this seemingly puts a housekeeper, and the Romulans generally, insanely far ahead of the Federation technology-wise. But hey, as STP's writers undoubtedly know, quantum mechanics does dictate that no information is ever really gone. Also, Whammon. When Picard meets Hugh on the artifact, he eventually reveals that he's looking for Soji, from which Hugh deduces that she's in danger, and asks the former Borg to take him to her now, conveying a high degree of urgency. The two then embark on a leisurely tour of the Borg Reclamation Project's facilities. And it gets even stupider. Having remembered what they're supposed to be doing, they stroll over to Soji's quarters and discover she's not there. Only then does Hugh consult the cube's internal tracking thingy in an attempt to find her. What the fuck? The artifact was broken, but not really broken, by the sheer force of cartoon villain's aunt's despair. Because extreme despair clearly isn't something the Borg would have encountered a lot of in the course of assimilating entire species. Data titles this painting of a random woman, whose appearance Faddux apparently used as a model when creating Dahj and Soji, which, sure, daughter. Despite the fact that, judging by its uncharacteristically realist style, it was likely produced after the TNG era, i.e. after he'd actually had a daughter, Lal. And, moreover, after he'd painted Lal. Why, you ask? Fuck you, that's why. So, okay, STP is complete nonsense on the micro as well as the macro level. But, there's still the old break glass in case of zero arguments Patrick Willems fallback defence. What if it's not the show that's wrong, but how I'm watching it? Here I am attempting to analyse things when obviously what I should be doing is switching off my brain and enjoying the ride. Sure, STP's mindless, but it still provides non-stop top-notch entertainment, right?
Continued in part 2.